Welcome! In this series of short videos, we will give an introduction to those who have never used PowerBasic before or even considered taking up programming. Today we will look at requirements management. So what is requirements management? As a developer, there are many types of application you can create. But where do the ideas for these applications actually come from? If you are writing applications for your own use, then you yourself will be providing the requirement. A requirement is the specification for the application, a list of what its purpose is and what it does. When the application is both being created by and for yourself, there is no real problem about formalizing the requirement. However, when potential users come to you, the developer, to create some new application, it becomes a different story. These new users, you will find, are normally not developers themselves, but those that need to use the new application for their day-to-day work, perhaps to automate part of their work, or at least to make their work easier. Users will be very familiar with the way they currently work, but usually much less familiar with a program solution to make their job easier. Very often, a user will ask you to develop something by suggesting a solution. For example, we need an application to collect data and give us a spreadsheet. The user has suggested a solution based on their experience, but hasn't clearly stated what the problem actually is, or what the whole process is actually for. So how do you obtain requirements? If you are lucky, you'll have a business analyst who can gather the full picture for you. Then you can look at possible solutions, which may end up radically changing the way the user works. If you don't have someone in this role, you will need to spend some time with the user, looking at what they do and how they do it. In a very real sense, users often don't know what they want. They just want their process to be improved, somehow. How to gather requirements. So what techniques can you use to gather requirements? Questionnaires. It's common to provide users with a standard way to ask for something new or changes to an existing application or system. This to provide key pieces of information, not the least of which is, when is this needed for? Brainstorming or workshops. Sometimes it's advantageous to put everyone involved in a room and not let them out until what's required has been discussed and agreed upon. Interviews and meetings. Bigger systems may require many meetings and one-to-one interviews with users to clarify what the change entails. Observation or shadowing. For teams of users that have never been involved with requirements before, sometimes you'll need to see firsthand what they are currently doing to be able to suggest more automated processes. Focus or project groups. Larger projects may take several months or even years to implement, and it's common to have a project group chaired by a project manager who interacts with both users and development and testing to ensure the project stays on track. Prototyping, proof of concept. To avoid taking weeks or months to produce the new application or system, only to discover that you've missed some fundamental concept right at the start. Prototyping is recommended. This allows interim stages of the project to be demonstrated to users to elicit their feedback throughout the project. When using one of the agile methodologies, this can involve releasing completed parts of an application or system before the whole project has been completed, to allow users to start making use of it and provide valuable feedback. was it always done this way? The short answer is no. Traditionally in computing, the requirements were all worked out and documented up front, before a single line of code was written. Much of this was down to the limitations of computer systems and software, where it was easier to do projects when the requirements didn't change during their development. While this approach does have the advantage to the developers that nothing will change in the requirements during the development, it risks delivering a product that may not meet the customer's evolving expectations. The modern approach to requirements has been described as being more agile, where the product under development can be delivered in phases, with each phase providing distinct functionality and each iteration of development looking to extend and improve on what has come previously. While this supports a more flexible approach, it does require the providers of the requirement, the users, to be more involved in the development decisions. To give an analogy from manufacturing, if you are designing what you believe to be a car or automobile, it would come as a surprise after several iterations of development that the user now wants it to fly. Such tangential requirements should be added to a roadmap at the beginning of the project, as they will influence how the project is initially designed. How much will this actually all cost? The spectre of rising project costs are always in the mind of those in charge of financial budgets. The traditional way of doing requirements allows the total cost of development to be estimated up front. However, it wasn't uncommon to have unforeseen problems delay the project and as a result push up costs. Or, when the project was finished, to realise that user requirements had evolved beyond what you have developed. The modern Agile approach makes it harder to estimate the time and cost to deliver a project, as the detailed analysis hasn't been done on what is required beyond the first iteration. So, if both traditional and modern methodologies have issues, then is a hybrid approach better? Some projects are better suited to the modern Agile approach, and some to an upfront specification. So use what works for your project, and don't be constrained by methodology dogma. Be flexible and adapt. Hopefully you'll find these concepts useful in your development of projects. But that's it for today. Thank you for watching.